Okay, so this whole class is basically culled from this book. It's in English today, so you can all take it home and you can read whatever we didn't get to or whatever you want to read all over again. So this is Rav Dovir Pinson's series called The Spiral of Time, and he basically has one book on every month, and it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Goes through many sources and brings together significant spiritual ideas, the energy of the month. Essentially, every book has there's a like coming. No worries. This is just an intro. Okay, so there's a permutation of Hashem's name for every month, meaning Yud Ke Vav Ke, how it's like different orders of Hashem's name. Okay, and then there's a Torah verse that always goes with whatever that permutation is. Okay, then there's a letter of the month, the name of the month, the sense, meaning the chush, the physical sense that we have, like the sense for the month of Nissan is speech. Yeah, exactly. A sign, like if you didn't know that the horoscope is actually originally Jewish, so now you know. Okay, we call them the mazalot. So there's a sign for every month, a shevet or tribe for every month, a body part for every month, an element for every month, what parshiot we read generally during that month, and the season and the holidays that are in that month. So basically, every book in the series goes through all of the months and all of those things from all of the months. And we have the schus of today starting the month of Nissan. So just the very first thing that I will tell you is that the month of Nissan is the only month that Hashem's name, it's like in order. Okay, none of the other months, it could be backwards, it could be two, hey, Yud Vav, or Yud Vav, hey, whatever it is. This month, Nissan, is the month that Hashem's name is in order. Okay. And that's very significant. Okay. So one of the things that we talk about when we talk about Hashem's name is like what energy is in this month. And when it's in order, we understand that the same way that Hashem's name, which we don't pronounce, right? The Yud Ke Vav Ke, that name. So we don't pronounce it, but there is a flow of energy that comes through that name. And that's why it's Hashem's name, right? Meaning that's the best flow, we'll call it, of Hashem's energy into the world. And Nissan is full of that. So it's a very exciting time. We're going to do basically just a few ideas. We're not going to go through the whole book, but I highly recommend, they have it at Pomeranz. You can buy certain months or you can buy the whole series. It's not cheap, I will tell you that. So Baruch Hashem, whatever. I had a gift card, so I got it. It was a special treat. But you can buy, 1 month at a time also, and not have to spend all the money in one go. Okay. According to the Torah. So I'm reading, but we'll type out different ideas from this while we read. So it's not just reading. Okay, according to the Torah, names are very powerful, right? We know that names are very powerful. Composed as they are of Hebrew letters, they represent and define the energy or attributes of that which is named. Right? So our names, for instance, unlock and reveal hidden potentials present within our own spiritual makeup. So we know that when your parent, right, it says in the Gemara that parents have Ruach HaKodesh when they give a child the name. Okay, that also goes true for if you got your name from your rabbi. If you didn't have a Hebrew name at birth, right? It's like a rabbi is someone who teaches you Torah, is also considered a parent of some kind, and a spiritual parent. And so that same Ruach HaKodesh goes for that. And names are like the Hebrew letters have tremendous significance, right? They're not just 2D letters on a page. They are like shapes of energy that come into the world. So one of the ideas that we understand is that when you use your Hebrew name, okay, so everyone here who's using their Hebrew name and everyone here who's not yet using their Hebrew name, so the way that energy, that Hashem's flow of abundance comes into the world is like channeled to you through your name, which means that like Ki'ilu, every single one of the letters is sort of like shining over your head, and they're like hollow channels, and through them the energy is coming into you. Okay, so it's I feel very strongly about it. Truthfully, I did have an English name. I do have an English name. I changed my English name. I always had a Hebrew name that I went to Hebrew school, whatever, Jewish day school, and my Hebrew teachers called me by Shoshana, but everybody else called me Stephanie. Okay. Yeah. I have there's no barriers here. So I'll tell you what the best way is to change your name. Yeah. That I got married, and then 2 weeks later I moved to Australia. So when you do that, not recommended, but anyway, if you do that and you move to a different country and you get introduced with your Hebrew name, then guess what? Everybody knows you by your Hebrew name, and that's how it goes. So there are certain moments that are like an Eis Ratzon, like an auspicious time to change your name. Getting married is one of them, because then your husband will always call you by your Hebrew name, and your new community, wherever you move, will call you by your Hebrew name. And it's truthfully, it's very, very hard for people to change. I mean, it's very hard for anyone to change what they call someone if they've known someone for a long time. I'm very grateful that almost my whole family calls me Shoshana after I've been married for almost 27 years. So it's been quite a while. Anyway, so and it's Rabbi Nachman's birthday today. So, through the schus of Rabbi Nachman, I'll give us all a bracha that we should channel all of the abundance from Hashem that we could possibly channel, and give all of us koach to make shifts in this month that might not be possible, or might be easier to make now, let's put it that way, than other times. So I'll give you that bracha. Okay. Okay. Similarly, names of other people, places, and periods of time provide subtle hints as to their deeper purpose or poetic significance. Isn't that beautiful? Right? Like in Hebrew, we say, right? We understand that the names of things connect to things that have also that shoresh, or those letters, and and then you find the connection to between them, and it very much works in Hebrew. You can dive into any name for anything, and learn something about it. Additionally, changing one's name is akin to a kind of rebirth. Some might even say that a change of name initiates a change of mazel. Okay, we know that, right? Chas v'shalom, someone gets ill, it's very common to add the name Chaim, which means life, or Alter, which means old, or Chaya, which is for a woman, right? It's a very it can be a very powerful new gateway of energy of healing energy to come into that person. Okay, each of the 12 months of the year has a distinct name, and every name has a meaning. According to our sages, the current names we have for the months were imported to our tradition upon our return to Israel from the Babylonian exile. In the times before the Babylonian exile, the names of the months were mostly known by their number in the sequence of the year. Okay, so for example, right now, what month are we in now? Nissan. Which is the first month. Okay, so it's a little bit confusing for people because there's a few different Rosh Hashanahs, right? Tishrei, we call that the first, the head of the year, but it's really the 7th month, because it's a different cycle. It's like there's the year of nationhood, peoplehood. There's the year of personal service, right? So Nissan is really the month of like the world, the nationhood. Okay, our nationhood, our identity as a nation, that we are born in Nissan as a nation. For example, the name of Av was called the 5th month, and Cheshvan was known as the 8th month. Okay, Nisan is one of the months of the year that is mentioned in Tanakh in post-Babylonian exile writing. So it's actually mentioned in Megillas Esther, Nisan, by its name. Okay, and Adar and Teves are also mentioned. Elul and Kislev are mentioned in Nehemiah, and Nisan is also mentioned in the book of Nehemiah. And before that, it was called Chodesh HaAviv. Okay, the month of the spring. Okay, so he goes into this whole thing that, and by the way, there is a debate about whether, like among the rabbis, there's a debate about whether we actually had all of the names that we use now, and they just weren't, like we had them, but we didn't use them. Did they come from Babylonia? Honestly, it doesn't make so much difference, because once they were adopted by Yiddishkeit, then they take on greater significance. Okay, so we're going to look at the name Nissan, but we're going to look at Chodesh HaAviv, because that was even before. Okay, Aviv. Before exploring the name of Nissan, a few words about the name Aviv. Aviv simply means spring, as Nissan begins the spring months. Aviv begins with the letters Aleph and Beis, the first and second letters of the Aleph base. As mentioned, sounds, letters, and vibrations are the conduits and transmitters of divine flow. When the letters of a word appear in the sequence of the Aleph base, this represents divine compassion, which is an uninterrupted flow from above to below. Okay, so so he gives the example here. Maybe I won't read the whole thing, okay? But basically, Aviv looks like this, right? So you have Aleph base, Yud, and then you go back to base. But basically, the beginning, it's like a flow from the beginning of the Aleph base, towards the end. And this is contrasted with Tishrei, okay, which is the right. Resh Shin Taf are the last three letters of the Aleph base, and it's backwards, right? When we say so he's basically saying that when you have the letters of the name of the month in order, anytime something is in order, it's like a flow of compassion, of kindness, of chesed. And when you have it backwards, there's some level of din or gevura or judgment. Okay. Now, just to take a step back for a second, right? Sometimes we say like, oh, chesed is good and gevura is bad, right? Let's step away from that for a second, okay? Because the example, I think the most helpful example of that is like water is chesed, right? But what happens if you have a flood? Not so good, right? Okay. So gevura are boundaries. Like the example is given of like a river with banks of a river, right? So when you have banks of the river, the banks represent gevura or din, judgment, okay, boundaries. And the banks of the river enable the river to flow and to be utilized in a productive manner, right? If you have a river that's just overflowing everywhere, then it's not helpful. When you have a river that has banks, then you can put boats on it, you can transport things, you swim, fish swim in it, whatever, all of these different things. It becomes, it could also run like what's called like a water wheel for electricity, whatever, all these different things that it can be productive. Okay, so din doesn't necessarily mean bad, right? But it means that it's a little bit harder for us to there's a level of there's like more something to learn, some way that we have to grow that might not be as easily tapped into as compassion and chesed. Okay. So Nissan, Aviv, has this like flow from above to below. It says the entire month of Nissan is a revealing of Hashem's light and compassion from the heavens above to us below. Okay. Also, look at the word Aviv. What word do you see in it? Ab. Okay. So what does that mean? Father. Okay. So like he says here, it's the father of Yud Bet. Yud Bet? 12 months. Right. Okay. It's the father of all of the months. Cool, right? Nice. Okay. Nissan is the Av, or the father of the 12 months of the year. All the 12 months flow from Nissan. Okay, so we did that about Tishrei. So go to the next page. Okay, the other thing is that Nissan is the first Chodesh. Nissan is the first Chodesh and is thus the headquarters of all Chidush. Okay, the first mitzvah that we got as a nation was Rosh Chodesh. Okay, and the reference is Nissan. Okay, it's if we get the mitzvah likrat, in expectation of Rosh Chodesh Nissan. Okay, and what the Torah tells us, the way that it's worded in Parshas Bo. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's why I don't want to use it. In Parshas Bo, it says, sorry, I tried to put the pasuk on here, but then I ran out of space, so I have to take it off. Here. HaChodesh hazeh lachem rosh chodashim rishon hu lachem lechodshei hashana. Okay, so I'm going to read that again. HaChodesh hazeh lachem. So I'll put up one finger for HaChodesh. Okay. Rosh chodashim. Put up two fingers. Rishon hu lachem lechodshei hashana. Three. Right. Okay. So three times in one verse you have the word chodesh. Right. What's the same word as chodesh? Hadash. Okay. What's so significant about that? Why is it significant that the first mitzvah that we got is Rosh Chodesh? Okay. And where were we when we got it? Mitzrayim, in slavery, right? Okay. So, and this is how you spell Chodesh. Okay. No one's, I mean, very, very rarely, every now and then you see like a vav in there. Okay. But it's basically spelled like this. And you assume that there's a dot over the, right, over the ches, okay, to make it chodesh. It's literally the same word as hadash, okay, new. So, why is that significant for us when we were slaves in Mitzrayim?
The start of a new era for us, like we're a new nation, we're a new point in time, slaves in.
Right, okay. It's so significant because what is slavery? Do you know that there were no fences in Egypt?
Fences?
Fences. There were no fences. We weren't in a jail cell. There weren't even, guess what? In the time of, slavery in Mitzrayim, they also didn't have like electric boundaries, around Mitzrayim, right? Why didn't we actually walk away?
We had like the mentality of stuff.
Okay, we had the mentality of being slaves. And part of the mentality of being slaves, right? Okay, you all know this, right? And did nobody? I hope I know I'm like the Hasidus teacher, but right, but right, but you learned this, right? This is the word for Egypt, yes, okay, but it's also the same word again as Meitzarim. Okay, Meitzarim means constrictions. Okay, so one of the 6 remembrances, right, is that B'chol dor vador. Every generation, a person has to see themselves as if they are leaving Mitzrayim. Okay, so has anybody ever been to Mitzrayim? No, me neither, right? Okay. Has anyone ever been to Mitzrayim? Yeah, me too. Okay, right? Let's put this into a different word. Stuck. Have you ever felt stuck?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, me too. Right? So what were we stuck in? We were stuck in, like Jeannie said, the slave mentality, okay, but we are still stuck in, each one of us in whatever way I'm stuck in my life, right? And with limiting beliefs or, with fears or whatever it is that is causing me to feel constricted and small and stuck and like I can't get out. So that's actually the spiritual sort of story behind Yetzias Mitzrayim. Okay, and that's why it's a mitzvah for us to see ourselves as leaving Mitzrayim, because every single one of us has a Mitzrayim, a personal Mitzrayim that we are trying to get out of and that we want to get out of, and that we, it's like, so we're like obligated to try to get out of it. But you can't get out of Meitzarim, you can't get out of a place of stuckness if you think that you can't ever get out of a place of stuckness, right? If I think that there's no hope for change, right? If I think that there's no, that I can never leave, then I'm really stuck, right? So Chodesh or Hitchadshut is another way of saying it, okay? Renewal, Hitchadshut, okay? That's the belief that I can change. I can change. Something can change about this situation or about me, and then it will be possible for me to leave. One of my favorite ideas about Hasidus is this idea that the Baal Shem Tov introduced the phrase yet into the world, right? The Baal Shem Tov didn't change Torah. He just gave us a different lens through which to see it, okay? So that I could say about myself, right? I don't have Shalom Bayis yet. I am not good at math yet.
Nope.
I have fear of fill in the blank. You know, I'm not yet over that. Right? But I'm not stuck in it. The belief that I don't have to be stuck in it, that Hashem can do anything, just like he took us out of Mitzrayim in the blink of an eye, right? He can take us out of whatever Meitzarim, each one of us. If he could take out a whole entire nation, right? We know that there was more than 600,000, was like 2 million something people, right? Then guess what? He could take little old me or, you know, little old you out of your own personal Meitzarim. And that's really it starts with Rosh Chodesh, because Rosh Chodesh is this, right? What happens on Rosh Chodesh? What are the physical components that we need to make it Rosh Chodesh? What happens to the moon? Okay, it starts anew, right? So basically, what happened like yesterday, there was no moon, right? And the whole idea is that now we have a tiny sliver of moon. You know, there was an idea that like when something goes away, it's not going to come back again, right? But the moon coming back each month is this idea of renewal. No, it's coming back. There is hope again. You're not stuck in despair. You're not stuck in darkness. There's a little bit of light, and the light can grow and grow and grow, and then ultimately, you know, on Leil HaSeder, it's a full moon, right? But this whole idea of Rosh Chodesh, that Hashem like introduced us to this idea that, oh, it's something new, right? Wait, who was I just talking to? Who just told me outside that your favorite thing is, oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. Okay, Emma, thank you. I'm like, what? Emma just told me that her favorite classes are the ones that talk about the energy of the month, because then each month you like get to the end of the month and you're there. It could be like, that's the very real thing that you feel like. Actually, in Chassidus, it says that the last days of Adar are the darkest days of the whole year, which is like so bizarre because Misha Nichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, right? Adar is all fun and, you know, but just at the end of Adar, we've lost all the energy for the whole year because Nissan is the first month of the year. And it's like there's a recreation of the world on some level in Nissan. So the last couple of days of Adar are like without any energy, and it's like darkness, and there's no moon, and there's no hitchachut. And then boom, here we go, Nissan. Nissan is hitchachut, and that happens really every month, right? Every month there's a different energy that you can tap into, and each one represents hope for growth and change. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, let's read that. Nissan is the first Chodesh of the month, and thus the headquarters of all Chidush, newness. Months follow lunar cycles, and the moon is renewed every month with Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the new month. The newness of the moon is a breaking out of the monotony of linear time, of day in and day out sameness. That was the situation they were in Mitzrayim, right? The same thing, day after day. Okay, there was nothing, no change, no growth. It catapults us into a sense of the miraculous hislachus, or renewal of life. Things are going in a certain direction, the moon is waning, and then all of a sudden there's a glimmer of hope, a miraculous reappearance of the moon in the sky. This is also the gift of the spring, of Aviv, and the gift of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of going out of Egypt, right? We see that also, right? Although, you know, I don't know, it was like all 3 seasons today. It was like it was like sunny, and then it was like really cold. Yesterday it was raining, whatever. But we do start to see like these flowers, you know, blooming. And I posted a picture on my a shear that I gave on Tuesday. I always put like pictures, and I usually try to have it be a picture that I take. I'm like a wannabe amateur photographer, totally not at all, but I really love framing certain things in a picture. And I was at a friend's house, and she was showing me she had a plant called an Xmas cactus. Okay, and apparently this plant only blooms once a year
on the 25th of December.
But it didn't bloom on the 25th of December. It's apparently in America they bloom in December. I don't know, like the ones they all have their own thing, their own schedule, right? So, but it only blooms once a year, and it's these bright red flowers, and I was at this friend's house like 2 weeks ago, and she was like, "Oh, I have to show you something. This plant is blooming. It only blooms once a year, and it's really beautiful flowers." And so my whole shear the other day was about how Hashem is like, nature, quote unquote, right, is like Hashem's energy set in a certain pattern, right? Hashem is in control of nature, and he puts things in order to give us a sense of comfort, right? Like day is always day and night is always night, and and in the spring the flowers come back, and the fruits grow, and it's beautiful, and it matches up so perfectly with the feeling of hitchadshut, right? Of going out of slavery, because it lifts your spirit, right? When you walk by a tree or flowers and you see them blooming, right? How we all get like happy. We have a sense of like there's hope. There's hope in the world. There's beauty. There's kindness. It just reminds us of all these like good things. And there's no coincidence that it coincides with Pesach. Okay, this whole idea of new hope. What was I saying about the picture? Oh, because well, now you said that they all bloom in their own time. So she was saying like, wow, why are you posting that picture now? And I said, because it was blooming now, in Adar. So it was like this point of like the Hashem, he sets nature into like a pattern, but every now and then he shows his hand in it, like in Pesach, at Yetzias Mitzrayim, when he, threw the whole world order up in a tailspin, and everything was up, what was up was down, and what was down was up, and because he's behind everything and he can do anything. Okay. The name Nissan. So now we talked about Aviv, okay, and now we'll talk about Nissan. So what is right, this is how you spell Nissan, okay? What word do you see in there? Nis, okay? So there's a beautiful idea that he says over here. Okay, so this is that whole thing of about the argument over the Babylonian names or the Hebrew names. Let's go down to where it says Nissan is by definition the month of miracles and the month of Geula, redemption. If the word Nissan is not indigenous to Hebrew, then it comes from the Akkadian word Nisanu, to move or to start, which is really the same idea, right? In Nissan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu inspires us with revealed miracles and moves us from above out of exile into Geula. Okay, then he says something so cool. There is actually a notable distinction between Nissan and Nes, right? So in Hebrew, when you put a final nun at the end of, that's supposed to be a final nun, not an I. My scanner didn't pick up the Hebrew. It's placed at the end of a noun. It implies a person or doer. Okay, and he gives a few examples. Like if you have the word, this isn't such a nice example, but he gives this example, right? If you have the word sheker, what's that mean?
False.
A falsehood, right? And you add a nun, what does that mean? A liar. Okay, or if you have the word pachad, okay, fear, right? And you add the nun, it's like a scaredy cat, right? Okay. So a nun at the end of the word makes it like someone who does this or something that does this. Okay, and that's the grammatical like thing of a nun. So Nisan is thus the agent of Nisim, right? Meaning the month of Nisan is the miracle maker, we'll call it. Okay, a bringer of miracles. It has the character and constitution of the miraculous. Whereas the month of Tishrei is the month of creation, and Sivan is the month of revelation, Nisan is the month of miracles. Okay, and then he always talks a lot about Gematria. Okay, so Gematria, so here we go. Let's do this on the board. Okay, it's always good to have it be visual. Okay, and you have all the answers in front of you, so we'll just write it out. So Nun is 50. Yud, 10. Samech, 60. That one's a good one that you have in front of you, right? No one remembers Samech. Okay, and Nun again is 50. Okay, now that adds up to 170. Okay, but what you do is that there's another system of gematria where you take out all the zeros. Okay, and you basically add up 5 plus 1 is what?
6.
Plus 6 plus 5. Wait a second, hang on.
You add a few more in there if you need.
Yeah, why do
I think they just have to take off.
I didn't think they took it. Yes, exactly. That's the, okay. This is where I should never do gematria because I understand the letters, but I don't understand the numbers at all, right? Okay, so let's do that again, right? 5 plus 5 is plus 10 plus 6. Oh, there we go. Okay. 26, which is the Yud K Vav K. Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey is 26. Okay, beautiful. Okay, one unique feature of the month of Nissan is that during the whole month, Tachanun is not said. Yeah? Okay. And also, we're not allowed to fast during this month, except the fast of the firstborn, Erev Pesach, okay? But what he means by this is that there are some people, first of all, there are some people that just take on personal fasts, okay? And then there's also a system called Bahab, which is a Monday, Thursday, Monday fast. There are people who do that throughout the year. They're not allowed to do it during Nissan, okay? It's not a good thing to do it during Nissan. And most of us have the custom to not eat matzah 30 days before Pesach. Okay. All of that was very nice, but this is actually why I wanted to do this. Okay. So there's a really special thing that happens that the first 12 days of Nisan, there are 2 times in the year that this happens. Okay. It's the last 12 days of Elul, we say this, and then the first 12 days of Nisan, we say this. That each day corresponds to an entire month of the year. So the thing is, though, that in Elul, what we say is actually it corresponds to the year before. Okay, that each of the last 12 days of Elul, you can make like a tikkun for the month that day corresponds to from the year before. Like if you had, let's say, not a great Tishrei, so then you can do things on that one day that kind of represent fixing or healing the Tishrei from the year before. Okay. This with Nissan, because it's the beginning of the year of the next year, you're like paying it forward. Okay. So you have their like intentions, and the last page that you have here is like a whole chart of all these different intentions that we can have to we'll go through in 1 second, but all the different intentions that we can have going forward in this year of like what I want my year to look like. So, with everything that we do, the more intentional that we can make it, so the more meaningful life becomes, right? And that's what we're always trying to do. So the first 12 days of Nisan, being that Nisan is the first month of the lunar year, the first 12 days of the month correspond to the 12 upcoming months of the year. This is similar to the concept that the final 12 days of the month of Elul, we said this already, okay. So moreover, the Avnei Nezer teaches that every hour of those first 12 days of Nisan have the power and potential of a full day, right? Like I guess that would be like 24 days in a month, but still, it's like every hour has significance from now until the 13th, until we go into really preparations for Pesach. Okay, about the first 12 days. Everything that will transpire during the upcoming 12 months is manifest on a seed level during these 12 days. According to our avoda, work of raising the sparks in our own lives, we receive kernels of blessing for living a redeemed life in the upcoming year. One of the things that the number 288 is is like spoken about as like that when the original vessels broke and there were sparks of Hashem's light that flew into the world and they have to be elevated, whatever, that the original number of sparks was 288. It's a very Kabbalistic idea, but it happens to be that 24 hours a day times 12 days a week equals 288. So that's like lifting up the sparks. But one of the things that I do really want to impart to you is there's a lot of, Nissan specifically and Pesach in particular is about Geula, right? About redemption. And we did once upon a time have this, right? The Geula of Pesach is the paradigm, is the model for all Geula afterwards. Okay, so there's a lot of things that we learn from it, including that it can happen terrifying, right? Like in the blink of an eye. But that also was a collective Geula. And it's very important that each one of us understands that and gets empowered by the idea that also there's this idea of like personal geula, right? That although there's a whole world and there's obviously crazy events going on in the world today, but that if I personally can work on certain things, I can get into a mindset of, of leaving my personal Mitzrayim. And that's also really what this is all about. Okay, it's not just as a collective. Like we shouldn't, it could look really hopeless if you think that of the numbers in the world, or if a friend of mine posted something online, she got such crazy anti-Semitic comments, like 600. It's like the most commented on post that she ever had. Like how many of us, most people get like, 40, maybe 100, maybe, she got like over 600 comments. And then she looked at them and they were all like horrific anti-Semitic curses and really, really terrible. And it made her so, brought her down like really a lot. And then there was this idea that like, okay, I can't, right? I can't change the world. I can't change the world. None of us can change the world, but each one of us can change ourselves. Meaning Hashem is with us in this process, and we can change even 1%, right? Change doesn't necessarily look like everything that I've done until now is canceled, and I'm 100% going to be a different person. No, of course not, right? Change looks like 1%. I'm 1% better at this relationship, or at remembering to, I don't know, set my alarm clock in the morning. I don't know, whatever, right? I'm 1% better at that. I'm 2% better at that. Whatever that percentage looks like, that's also a form of, working towards Geula, right? It's not just on a country level or on a world level. It's our own personal Geula. So when we talk about this, like 12 days thing, right? It's like this microcosm of a whole year. And each one of us has like work that we can do, that the day itself invites that work. Okay. And so it's time. It's not like, some like you can work on yourself the whole year, of course, but there are certain times of the year where Hashem also gives us the energy so that the work that we do is more effective. And that's what we have right now. But you're asking a question.
Sorry.
No, that's good. Okay. So I brought this very interesting story. It is said that the great tzaddik, the Choseh of Lublin, who we've spoken about in this class, would write in a journal on each of the first 12 days of Nissan what would occur during the corresponding month of the year to help bring those realities into being. Meaning he would like manifest, right? He would like write what he wants it to be, what he wants it to look like, and in a way of bringing that closer. In the year that he passed away, he only wrote entries for the first 4 days, up until the 5th, which corresponds to the month of Av, and he passed away on Tisha B'Av of that year. It's like a very well-known story in Chassidus. What's the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, I wanted to tell you one more story. There is a story about Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Horoduk, who was also known as Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk, who came here to Eretz Yisrael. He's buried in Tveria, and he was like the first big Hasidic Rebbe that came with Talmidim and families, and they like basically started Hasidus in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, and if you go up to Tveria, there's a whole area of the Tveria cemetery. I love cemeteries. I don't know. Okay. But Jewish cemeteries, not other kinds of cemeteries. But there's a whole area of the cemetery in Tveria, and it says like Chelkat Talmidei HaBaal Shem Tov, and it has this big sign, right? This is the area where the students of the Baal Shem Tov are buried. And you're like, what? That's so crazy. Okay, anyway, he's buried there. And this story told about him that at one point there were like he was living here, and I don't know, someone started blowing a shofar, someone heard a shofar, whatever it was, and someone comes running up to his house, knocks on the door, and says like, Rabbi, Mashiach is here. And he opens up the window and he sticks his head out and he sniffs and he closes it and he says, no, not yet. Any questions?
But he's
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, okay.
Like why did he sniff?
Right.
Like and right. How does like what? Why did you do that?
What does Mashiach smell like? First of all, yeah, okay, right. And also, why did he have to go to the like? What is that? What does it mean? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, your question could just be like, huh? Okay. So, what does it mean that he himself was actually living? For him, he was kind of like living in a Mashiach reality. So in his Daled Amos, like in his house, for him, it felt like Mashiach was already here, was already manifest. Because what does Mashiach mean, right? I don't know. It mean like, when I was a kid, they taught us that like it meant like candy is gonna grow on trees. Like that was like the best thing I could think of, But I mean, for me personally, I think it means like clarity, right? Having clarity, like having a feeling of like I belong and I know where I belong and I have connection. Okay. So he was already living like that. And he had to go out and he had to like physically like open, something outside of his own sphere of of energy. And what does non-Mashiach smell like? Oh, well, that we all know, right? But he sniffed that outside of his window, right? So, but for us personally, like we could have these Mashiach moments, right? We can have these like I wrote once an article about how I went to a Tzama concert, right? I told you all about Tzama at the time. But Tzama is like a concert that's in Israel of all of modern Israeli artists singing Chabad Nigunim and also their own songs, and it's very cool. And a bunch of artists get together. It's usually Avram Fried and used to be also Yishai Ribo. This year was Akiva and Akiva's sister and Ruchama, and it's very very cool. So next year, if you're here around, it's around December. It coincides with the 19th with Yutas Kislev. Okay, so
Yeah,
yeah,
I know.
and there's a big book sale in beginning, right? So it's an amazing concert. Anyway, one year I was there a few years ago, and it was the last show. They do like 19 concerts, something like that. Like at its height, they literally, I think they do like 3 or 4 concerts a day. It's crazy. Like yeshiva students come and not since October 7th, but or maybe not even since Corona, I can't remember. But anyway, this was the last show out of like a crazy number of shows. And they basically turned up all the lights in the whole auditorium, and they called all the people who did like the lighting and all the people who did the scene, the behind the scenes people, all right. And Avram Fried called them all up. He's like such a big hearted person, and he just said like, I want to say thank you, and then we all sang Ani Mami, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is Mashiach, like this is like this witnessing of everybody, like and unity, and it was just so beautiful. And I felt after that like maybe that's what it means. Like we collect these moments of like feeling Mashiach's presence, or feeling like like there's a geula in my own Daled Amos, and maybe that's maybe we just keep on collecting them and add them up, and Bezrat Hashem should add up to be more visible to everybody. Okay. So practically, this means that we should take this 12-day period before Pesach to increase our Torah learning. Spend a little more time in Tefillah each day. Again, a little more time. Okay, 1% more. Yeah, that doesn't mean you say extra things. It could be that you say it with a little bit more kavana, right? Give yourself a little bit more time to say the things that you already say. Okay, that's always important. Always better to go deeper than more. What is that? At least in my opinion. And give a little bit more tzedakah. There, it's important to give more, not deeper. Okay. Of course, increasing in holiness is a great benefit any day and moment of our lives. It does, however, come into greater focus and heightened. To begin, during each day of these first 12 days, we can contemplate the qualities of the corresponding month of the year. So we'll go through the list in 1 second. For example, on day 1 of Nissan, think about the inner dynamics of Nissan. Day 2, think about ER, and so on. Okay. Some who are more spiritually attuned can meditate on each of these days and intuit what will occur in the corresponding month, or like put energy towards that. However, our focus should be on how we can grow within the matrix of each month. Every month resonates with certain opportunities for growth. So as you are thinking about the month that corresponds to the current day, resolve that you should avail yourself of these opportunities and grow in your capabilities. The other thing that we do And my husband's very big on this, and this is a really beautiful idea in and of itself. Okay, to heighten, this is like I think it's a Chabad custom, but I'm not totally sure. So you can correct me if you know from somewhere else. But to heighten our awareness of these 12 days, there's also a custom to recite the account of the offerings that the corresponding Nasi made on that day in the Torah. Okay, so what's the story about the Nasi? We have it in the Parsha when and it's actually what we read on Hanukkah. It's the Torah reading that we read on Hanukkah. Okay, what happened with the Nisim? They each bring an offering from. Okay, let's do it's in Parshas Naso. Makes it easy to remember. All right, Nasi. You never thought about that?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna read to you in English, and you're gonna tell me what's unusual. Okay, you ready? So here we go. The first one, the one who brought his offering on the first day was Nachshon, son of Aminadav, the famous character. Yes, okay, of the tribe of Yehuda. His offering was 1 silver bowl, its weight 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels in the sacred shekel, both of them filled with fine flour mixed with oil for a meal offering, 1 golden ladle of 10 shekels filled with incense, 1 young bull, 1 ram, 1 sheep in its first year for a burnt offering, 1 he-goat for a sin offering, and for a feast peace offering, 2 cattle, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, 5 sheep in their first year. Okay, here we go. The second day, Netanel's son of Zuar offered. He's the leader of Issachar. 1 silver bowl, its weight 130 shekels, and 1 silver basin of 70 shekels in the sacred shekel, both of them filled with fine flour mixed with oil for a meal offering. 1 golden ladle of 10 shekels filled with incense. 1 young bull, 1 ram, 1 sheep in its first year for a burnt offering. Anyone sensing a pattern here? 1 he-goat for a sin offering, and for a feast peace offering. 2 cattle, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, 5 sheep in their first year. This is the offering. Yeah. Okay. It's hard to hear it, but they all offer exactly the same thing. Literally the exact same thing. Okay, the same weight, the same amount, they are the same psukim over and over and over again. And how many times do we read them? 12 times. Isn't that crazy?
Why?
Why?
Why
does it say the same thing?
The Torah doesn't waste words.
Yes, the Torah does not waste words. Okay, it's one of the longest parshiot because the Torah says it over and over and over and again. Okay, so why? Yeah, Jeannie.
No, I'm saying I was saying it's so interesting in that sense. Like it names every individual and what they'll bring instead of saying every leader of every tribe will bring
this. Exactly. Isn't that so interesting? Okay, so what do you make of it, Sophie?
Is it kind of like the idea of black fire and white fire? Like what you don't see is the Kabbalah, the way they brought it. Everyone is different energy, and I think that's why we read it on Hanukkah because we're all lighting the same candles, but how do you prepare? How are you coming? What is the energy that you're bringing to that candle each night? It's all different, even though it looks the same. It would have been a world different every time they brought the offerings.
And who doesn't see that, and who does see that? Right? Hashem, okay? Meaning to us, it looks like, well, it's the same thing over and over and over again. Why don't you just condense it, right? Or even in that time, it could be right when someone else buys the same dress as you have, If you ever go to a wedding and you're wearing the same dress as someone else?
The best.
Some
Some people think it's the worst.
Some people do, right? Okay.
I'm glad I didn't.
But does it look the same?
No,
It doesn't,
that's
right?
the issue because sometimes one looks better than the other.
So I'll give us all a bracha, okay?
Same dress as someone else at a wedding.
So the Nisim from each tribe, they also were I'm bringing the same thing as he's bringing. What does it matter if I bring it? I'm wearing the same dress as he, whatever, right? Okay, why does it matter that I go? Did the person who invite you invite the dress or the person in the dress? Okay, so it's not really about the gift was a gift that was needed, fine, but it's about the person who's bringing the gift. It's about the intentions, like Sophie so beautifully said. I love the black fire and the white fire is, just took it to a higher level, right? That you have the Torah is written and we have the words and then we have the white space around the words, right? And one of the things like a Torah, of course, would be not kosher if the wrong word was written, right? But also if you don't have the right space around the words, then and around each letter within each word, then the Torah is also chas v'shalom, not kosher, because the white space is actually just as important as the black space. So the white fire is just as important as the black fire. The intentions with which it's given, and the person, who collected it, and what he was thinking, and who he got it from, and each tribe people came forward and gave these things to the Nissan, and so every single thing is actually so different. And so there's a custom that each of these days, right? Like today we would say Yehuda, like I just said it. So you're all Yotze, okay? You could say it yourself though. I think it instills within us such a deep idea that if I'm saying the same thing every day, also with tefillah, right? We say that also. I'm saying the same thing every day, and yet I'm not the same person every day. And Hashem is not hearing it the same every single day. So I like this is like a mini lesson of that, right? That even though the words are the same, but the name of the person is not the same. And therefore also that helps us to have the window into like that the gift, even if it looks physically the same, is not the same. And each one of us are needed, like just the same way that each one of those Nisim's gifts were needed because they were the ones that brought them. So too, each one of us, we're here because Hashem needs us here, because we're going to add something to the world, to our family, to, this class, to the way we walk home, who knows, whatever it is, right? You're adding something right now in just by being here. And this is like a window into that mindset. Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing to say each day, the Nasi, that's what it's called, say the Nasi, okay? And okay, so now just take a quick look at the chart, okay? I'll just go through a few, okay? I don't have to read it all for you. That's why I did it. That's why I did this whole class in English. Okay, so you can have this, you can put it up on your refrigerator or something, okay? And then just even if you think about this for 3 seconds a day, I mean a minute, noch besser, great, a couple of minutes, great. If you look at it before you daven in the morning, on each of these 12 days, or starting tomorrow, okay, or mincha today, who knows, right? There's beautiful intentions here, okay. So today is about Nissan, so it's about this whole month of Nissan, this one that we're in right now, which is a month of Geula, redemption. That's the flavor of the month, the koach of the month. And then in practice, you could say, what in your life needs redemption? Think about the issues that you need to release in this coming year. Okay, how can I tap more into Geula? What do I need to let go of? Right, Hashem took them out of Mitzrayim. Right, what are my Meitzarim? What do I need to get out of? I mean, if you do this as a writing exercise, like even better, right? And then you could bring that. I have a friend who puts like notes in her siddur all the time. Like she writes something and then she davens on that thing. Rabbi Nachman says, you learn something and then you daven on it, right? You make tefillah from your Torah. Okay, tomorrow is ER, and ER is about healing and building the self. Think about your life issues that need healing, whether physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. Healing between yourself and others, and healing within yourself. And each of these could be a tefillah, by the way. Okay, it doesn't have to be like, I have the intention to heal myself in blah, blah, blah. It could be like, Hashem, you know that I need healing in, X, Y, and Z. Please help me, or help me to see what I need healing in, right? These can be like, you can turn these into tefillot. So I'll let you read, the rest of them, okay? On the bottom, he actually wrote a beautiful tefillah that I really love. So we'll just say it, and then if anybody has any questions, and maybe I'll tell one more story. Okay. Tefillah. May we open ourselves to experience the newness and aliveness of every moment of life this Nissan and Pesach season. May this year be a year of creativity, generosity, and new beginnings. May we become humble and kind leaders who skip over the apparent ego of others and speak directly to their soul. May we be always open to the gift of life and surrender to the light of Hashem, so that we become the vessels to receive miracles in our lives for the good of the world. May this be a month and year of truly new miraculous beginnings. And may we be blessed to witness the beginning of the miracle of all miracles, the redemption of all creation from all levels of slavery speedily in our days. Okay. So just leave off on with a short story, because that's what we do, right? So I actually told this story a few weeks ago, but it just came to me now. So Rabbeim Yitzchak of Berditchev, right? Who we learned about. Actually don't know when it was, but we did learn about him. So the famous story with him is that he's the advocate of Am Yisrael, right? The defense lawyer of Am Yisrael. So at one point, Russia and Turkey were at war with each other. Yeah, the Tsar and the Ottoman Empire. Okay, they were at war with each other, and so things that were brought from the Ottoman Empire were illegal, like silk or tobacco or spices, right? So Rabbeim Yitzchak put out this word that everyone should get together. He needs everyone. The whole town comes together, his Hasidim, his students, were like hundreds of people standing there. And he's like, I need some Turkish silk. Right now, I need some Turkish silk. And I was like, Rebbe, it's illegal to have Turkish silk. You can't have Turkish silk. Nonetheless, within 5 minutes, someone came back and brought him a bolt of Turkish silk. And then he said, I need some Turkish tobacco snuff. Who here has, and they're like, Rebbe, you don't have Turkish snuff. It's illegal. And then, someone slips it to him on the side. Okay, great. And then he says, I need some chametz. The Erev Pesach, the morning of Pesach, after the burning of the chametz. He says, I need some chametz. And everyone just looks at him. No. Chametz. We don't have chametz. And he's waiting. And not like before, where someone slipped him some silk and someone slipped him some tobacco. No one brings any chametz because they don't have chametz. And he turns his face up to the heavens and he says, Master of the universe, the Tsar has a whole army to impose his laws. He has punishments. He has jail cells. And yet, everybody here, they're willing to take that risk, to break the laws, to, have what they want over what the Tsar wants. But look at your people, Hashem. No one here wants anything other than what you want. You don't want chametz now, and none of them have chametz. So Hashem, grant your people that they should feel that you see them. They should feel aligned with you. They should feel your love. They should feel your geula. Be'ezrat Hashem.